Hello and welcome. Welcome to our first Oasis curriculum session. It's wonderful to be with you, and I'm glad you could join me. I'm going to talk today about the model of life, and we're going to start at the very beginning so that we have our foundation in place before we move on in subsequent months to look at the specific topics in the foundation. And I wanted to start with just going over what the model of life can give you and how we can establish that within our being as part of our practice to give us the optimal relationship to the energy of life so that we are able to navigate and experience things in alignment with that energy of life. So the model of life is like it's a template. It's a template for existence. It's a template for your experience. It's a template for how to navigate that design of existence and your experience. So it's really a template for living, and it is a really central part of your practice. And that's why that first course in the is called the foundation, because it is the foundation of all your understanding and your learning. The model of life helps you understand what you can change and what you can't, because we need to take responsibility for our own experience, and so it helps us do that. It shows us very clearly that there's a part that we play in interacting with energy. But we also need to practice this. It doesn't come overnight, and it's something that we have to commit to if we want to get the most out of it. Taking the time to be familiar with the model of life and bringing that into your practice, learning how to interact with it, is really a prerequisite for if we want to change anything within our being. So obviously all of us come to this kind of work thinking, oh, wouldn't it be nice if I could do this or change that or improve that or get rid of that? But in order to do that, we have to know what we're working with. Only conscious interaction is going to be able to get into some of those patterns and programs that might be subterranean in your being. We are more familiar with what's on the surface of our being, but we're less familiar with what lies underneath. And it's what lies underneath in our subconscious that is often ordering and determining our experience without us realizing it. So if we look at the first topics in the Oasis, we've got energy structure, energy properties, and energy qualities. And this is really breaking down that first part of the model of life, which is the component of energy, which in the diagram is on the far left-hand side. And energy structure is so dependable. It's part of the fixed aspect of the model of life. And it's really going to give you that reliability. It's going to give you something that you can turn to, and you know it's going to be that way every time you interact with it. And that's really important. The properties are how that structure responds, and it gives energy its adaptability. So the energy structure really allows you to see how energy is behaving, how it functions. And you need to understand that to see how it is producing your experience, not just what it's producing, but how it's producing your experience. And then the qualities are really looking at the nature of the energy. And so that's what gives you that felt sense. Without that nature encoded into the energy, you wouldn't be able to feel it qualitatively. You wouldn't be able to generate the difference between love and peace or joy or quiet. So the qualities really give you that felt sense of the innate nature. And these are your tools that you can explore with and experiment with. Now, your relationship to energy is going to give you your experience, and it's unique, even though the structure and the properties are and the qualities are already encoded into energy. How you interact with that and how you understand it, what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. So that's really the thing to understand. Think of energy as a substance that you're imprinting. And you can visualize this any way you want, but it's so important to moment to moment, or as often as you can remember, have this sense that there is this substance of energy of which we are made too. And everything we do, every thought we think, every feeling we have, every word we say, every action we take is imprinting that energy. So imagine when you make bread dough, for instance, and you were to press your hand into that dough. When you take your hand away, you would be very surprised if you didn't have a handprint there. Imagine if you took your hand away and it looked like a tree or an elephant. So whatever we imprint into the energy is what the energy is duty bound to receive and express. And it can't be otherwise. Even though it has its own innate um, starting point, so the structure and the properties and the qualities are the starting point, it's really our interaction with it that differentiates our experience from somebody else's. And this starting point of uh, understanding and experimenting with the model of life is really how we become conscious navigators, how we're able to work with our own experience and make those changes that we wish to make. You need to not only know about it and know that it's there, but have some kind of faith and trust in it too. It's very difficult to go deep in your experience. It's very difficult to change anything permanently unless you cultivate an intimate relationship with that energy. So, as we know, when we go through life, we're generating experiences all the time. And if we want to pull back from that experience or we want to redirect the pattern that we're creating, we have to, we can't just climb inside the pattern and ask it to change. We have to step back into those aspects of the model of life, particularly the presence of energy, and really trust it, really rely on it. We have to turn towards it time and time again. Now, obviously, because we're made from that energy, we're not turning towards it out there. We're not relying on something out there. We're turning towards the design of our own being. And we're really deeply trusting and relying that that is there as it's designed so that we don't even, after some time, we don't even have to think about it anymore. We just know it's there. We know how it operates. And we can put all of our attention into how we're interacting with it. And things become a lot easier. It also means that it takes a lot of the thinking out of it. We're constantly um, with, spiritual development, self-development, personal development, we're constantly questioning and second guessing, and it's easy to get confused. So without the knowledge and the practice together, those two have to come together. We are often shooting in the dark and we can confuse ourselves, we can get thrown off track. And then what happens is we're noticing our creations, but we feel impotent to change them. And that's when we start to feel like we're on the receiving end of our experience rather than the creator of it. So, understanding the model of life and practicing that interaction with energy allows us to become familiar and conversant with energy in its source state. And obviously, our practice requires steadiness, persistence, detachment, willingness, all of those things that we've spoken about many times. And if we are able to continue with that, over time, we do build up this intimate, conversant relationship so that once we become a little more confident and competent, we can literally turn our attention within a split second towards that energy and connect with it and feel its presence and think, okay, I know where I am. And it has this very steadying influence on our consciousness. We anchor our consciousness into that. So, what I thought we would do today is watch the foundation overview video, and then you can ask any questions that you have about anything that's come up, either from what I've said or from the video. And then after that, we'll move into a practice. So hopefully that sounds good to you. I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully you can see. I'm just going to activate the chat. Can everyone see my screen? You can let me know in the chat box. Yes, great. Thank you. Marvelous. All right. So here's the overview video, and just going to play it. And feel free to take notes. Einstein said, "Look deep into nature and you will understand everything better." He also said, "Make everything as simple as possible, but no simpler." Here with this foundation program, we are attempting to do both. You've already read that intelligent life exists in order to help you understand, experience, and evolve all aspects of your life. But without the understanding of the underlying design and how it operates, we cannot hope to understand life, and more importantly, how to live it well. So we have put together a simple overview, which we call the model of life. It forms the foundation of the whole Intelligent Life program. The concepts, practice, and application of it here are developed further as the program progresses through the learning modules. This diagram shows the elements of the model of life and how they fit together. You see here there are 6 elements. They work together as a seamless whole, but for the purposes of clarity, we are going to identify each of the component parts and how it influences the overall design. You see there are 2 fixed elements, 2 changeable elements, and 2 elements that cross over both the fixed and unchangeable elements. The fixed elements are energy and the present moment. We are referring to the aspects of the overall design that don't change. Their design and behavior is fixed, so their influence remains constant. These elements cannot be altered or influenced. So in this sense, we say they are non-negotiable. This is important to know because when it comes to understanding and working with the model of life, we need to know what we are dealing with as a starting point. We need to know the inherent predisposition of the substance we are dealing with. And it also saves us a lot of misspent energy trying to push against things that can't change. Conversely, there are also changeable elements, thought and sensation. These are areas that, by definition, are not fixed. But what causes them to change? We do. They change in response to our interaction and choices. And as they have such a profound influence on the outcome, which, as you see here, is our experience of life, it's our responsibility to use them well. Finally, there are 2 elements, consciousness and experience, that blend both the fixed and changeable aspects. These are fascinating elements to explore because they demonstrate clearly what we are putting into life through our use of consciousness, and hence what we are getting out of it by way of experience. One way of remembering this is the formula design plus interaction equals outcome. The aim of this program is to help you better understand how this happens and how you can optimize your input to bring about optimal results. After you study the 8 topics within the model of life, there are 4 more topics in the foundation: the subconscious, identity, the energy field, and evolution. These additional topics cover how the basic operating principles work both individually and collectively, so we can build up a picture of how our individual lives affect the whole. All the material in the Intelligent Life curriculum is based on an understanding of structure, properties, and nature of energy. So let's explore that for a moment. Einstein said, "It follows from the special theory of relativity that mass and energy are different manifestations of the same thing. This is a somewhat unfamiliar conception to the average mind." Energy is the building block of all life. Because we don't see energy, only its effects, we don't pay much attention to it. And yet energy is the invisible force that governs all life. Consider how the power of waves, birdsong, a sudden upwelling of emotion, the intensity of a laser beam, or the graceful unfolding of a rose bloom are all demonstrations of energy. So too, a person, a lion, a rock, a tree are all demonstrations of energy in the form of matter. The created world has no choice but to take its building material from the same source. So clothing, cars, buildings, and computers also share the same source as manifestations of energy. There is no part of life anywhere that doesn't rely on this underlying fabric for its existence. And that brings us to one of the most important aspects of energy. Because it is common to all life, it acts as a universal language, joining seemingly disparate parts of life into a unified whole. A lot of attention is placed on the exploration of physical particles within the energy spectrum. Particle energy has been the object of scientific investigation in recent decades, and exciting discoveries have been made into the smaller and smaller particles observable in experiments. The most recent being the hunt for the Higgs boson at the Hadron Collider Center in CERN. But observable particles are only one aspect of energy. When we say visible or observable particles, you could be forgiven for thinking that there is something material there to see. In fact, once you get smaller than an atom, the particles of energy become subatomic, meaning below the level of the atom, and there is no material substance in them at all. Even apparently solid material objects are made out of subatomic immaterial energy, the source which is completely invisible. The unseen aspects of energy provide us with a fascinating insight into the structure, properties, and qualities it contains. So if we can't see this energy, even with the most sophisticated equipment, how do we understand it and work with it? As living beings, we don't just view life remotely and learn from it. We experience it through being part of it. The unseen aspects of energy can only be accessed experientially. And systematic experiential investigation can give us vital clues on how to collaborate with energy to utilize its inherent design. When we talk about design, we're referring to the universal characteristics that accompany the presence, experience, and use of energy. They are woven into the very architecture of energy itself and cannot be altered or removed. So we need to explore and understand them as they are the raw material of life. One of the most compelling aspects of energy is its inherent intelligence. Not only does it come pre-encoded to produce all the wonders of life, but it is impossible to recreate. The sheer immensity, propensity, and diversity of energy, both seen and felt, is staggering. Even the most skeptical of observers, if they are unmoved by its beauty and wonder, cannot help but admire its intelligence. We don't have to do the hard work of encoding the acorn to produce the oak tree. That part has been done. Our job is to utilize that intelligence, do it justice, and more importantly, not work against it. Throughout the foundation, we'll look more closely at the different aspects of the model of life, how that can be explored experientially, and how it helps us navigate our everyday lives. Each of the topics starts with an introductory video on the theory, followed by a practice session, and then a short questionnaire to help you apply the insights and experience gained from the first two sections. Okay. So you can see there that my opening comments were reiterated in that video. And I wonder, as most of you have had a chance now to work with at least the first few topics in the foundation, I'm wondering what your experiences are and what your questions are, and how we can use this time together to go a little bit deeper. Would anyone like to ask a question? Feel free to write in the chat box and then I can call on you. Well, no questions coming through right now, but maybe I can ask you a question. What have you noticed about your relationship to energy? You can either unmute yourself and speak, or you can write something in the chat box. What have you noticed about your relationship to energy as you've been studying this? As we're developing that intimacy in that relationship. It's going to be a very short call if there's no questions and there's no answers either. Okay, go ahead, Julia.
Yeah, suddenly I'm feeling very shy.
Oh, no need. You know everybody here.
Oh, excellent. Just in the beginning talk, when you said practice and faith in the model of life. Well, I've been practicing and working on my faith, but somehow this has been landing for me in the last little while. And the foundation course has helped enormously. So there is something about the length of the talk in the beginning with the visuals that and then going into the practice and also doing the application, which sometimes I just want to whiz through. So there's the practice. So apparently I'm a good practicer, but then I don't like doing these other things, right? So really it is both. And I tend to be an analytical person, and how's this going to work? And then I get all caught up but thinking about it all as energy clears up a lot of the mental creations. Or anyway, I've noticed I've had a lot of clutter, and I've known that for a long time. But understanding these as created temporary energetic forms, and then going back especially in the meditation, to the underlying reality of these forms,
Mhm.
is, I don't know. I mean, I've done it. I've been working with you, Jed, or following your work forever, or not forever, but for a long time. But this is really landing for me. And it's
Mm.
incredibly, well, I'm just in a lot more reality instead
Right.
of in my own made up, very compelling uh, world. So it's transformative. I think this foundation practice, like I can't believe it's only 27 pounds a month. It feels very, very distilled.
Right. Yes. Yeah, and I guess that's the beauty of breaking these topics into very specific areas. So in the past, when we've delivered the model of life, we've talked about it just as over one talk, whereas now we're going really specifically into each aspect. And all the topics in the foundation deal with the, oh, I try to find another word other than foundational, but I would love to have some suggestions, all of you wordsmiths out there, for another word for foundation. Essential, maybe. This is the really essential information that we need in order to navigate effectively. Um, it does really help to take the more personal element or sort of the identity element out when we're just dealing with raw energy. And we also see that when we interact with it, oh, I'm going to take my glasses off. They just keep sliding down my nose today. They want to be on the end of my nose. Um, it takes out that personal element because we see that the energy doesn't have an agenda, and whatever we do to it, it just reflects back to us, even though it does have its own, as we've said many times, structure and properties and qualities. That's just the way it is. And it's not doing it one day and then not another day. It's incredibly reliable. It's such a reliable partner. And I think as human beings, we're not used to having that reliability. We're not used to having something we can deeply trust. And that when we turn to it, it's there. We kind of expect to be let down. Um, and also, as human beings, we tend to be very hard on ourselves. And once we see that this energy is incredibly benevolent, it's, even though it's benevolent, it still doesn't have an agenda, but it is incredibly generous. And when you think, oh, I'm made out of that energy, literally every part of me is made out of this generous, abundant, intelligent energy, it allows us to start to see ourselves in a kinder light and to and see that there's a lot more potential there. And I'm happy to hear that the foundation is really landing for you. I mean, certainly that was our intention. One thing I will say about the foundation is, I mean, some people are writing to us saying, "Oh, why haven't you put the modules up yet?" We really want people to focus on the foundation and get this work um, integrated and embodied before we start moving on to the modules. And if we never ever put up modules and we only ever offered this curriculum can take you all the way. So it's so, Pauline said fundamental. Thank you. It's so fundamental to our relationship with the self and relationship with life that we could just simply repeat these topics ad infinitum and still be developing and drawing benefit from it. Maria says, I have to say that it's a challenge to admit to myself when doing the question format how to be honest with my answers. Yes. And I think that, some people feel that way about the map too, that they'll score themselves very high, or people who tend to be hard on themselves underscore themselves, people who are overconfident overscore themselves. with those self-reflection statements, originally it was going to be a questionnaire. We designed a questionnaire, and then at the last minute, we changed it to self-reflection statements because it's just an opportunity to say, is this true for me right in this moment? And that's all you need to ask. And if you'll sit quietly, you'll notice you're either navigating with your conscious attention or you're navigating with your mind. If you're navigating with your mind, it's possible for some less than correct or less than accurate, let's say, less than accurate answers to creep in. But if you're navigating with consciousness, consciousness is very matter of fact, and it can see aspects of ourselves, even if those are a little bit challenging or not the wisest behavior that we've ever exhibited. But consciousness can see that without a cringe factor. It's able to look at our own being and just notice things as they are. And another thing you may notice when you're navigating with consciousness, that our navigating with consciousness activates our soul and our higher self to be present. And our soul and our higher self are enormously compassionate and accepting and forgiving. All the qualities we want to develop anyway, those are just woven into who we are as souls. And if you're navigating your being with consciousness, you're able to see something and just go, oh, okay, I notice that is the way right now. We don't get upset about it. We don't react to it. We just notice. And in that noticing, we see that even when we're acting up, acting out, acting unwisely, we're not intending to be that way. It's just happening because of the thoughts and the feelings are all swirling around, and the identity, the experiences we've had, some memories, some beliefs are in operation. It's not that we ever intend to be that way, it just happens. And when we're conscious of our being, we see that we are essentially innocent. And we can let ourselves off the hook from being uh, constantly berating ourselves. And all of these qualities, the detachment, the willingness, the persistence, the steadiness that I spoke about in terms of practice, they all help us to see things as they are. And if we can see the creative mechanism for how something has come into being, or we can see all of the inputs into our being at a previous stage that have led to us having this belief or this behavior in the present, then we understand how that came into being. And we also understand the mechanism by how we can do something differently. We realize that, well, if I can create this, I can create that. It's the same mechanism. It's the same mechanism that creates bliss and misery. So it's up to us to use that mechanism wisely and make sure that the inputs that we're putting in are what we want to put in more intentional. And then just existence will just flow on and everything will take its course. So thank you, Julia, so much for being brave and going ahead when everyone else was feeling a little bit shy. I appreciate that, kicking us off. Maria saying, I am loving the work in spite of myself. Well, you can love the work and love yourself too. Maybe that will be the next step. Sheila says, what I've noticed at times is that I've betrayed myself and my energy and my own inner trust. I appreciated what you shared about how to develop an intimate relationship with the energy and the self. How best to be intimate with self, appreciate and accept self and the energy. Oh, well, I could talk about this for hours, so you don't get me started right now. For me, in my own experience, I have developed an incredibly intimate, loving relationship with the energy of existence. And as an extension, my own being. the essence of my being. I'm not always a fan of my humanness, just like you're not always a fan of your humanness. You know that happens. It's part of the human condition. But when you repeatedly take the time to interact with this energy, and this really does come in practice, you can do it in day-to-day life, but you get the full benefit of it in practice when everything is quiet, you're focused, to see how reliable and trustworthy that energy is. It moves your heart when you see, particularly for me, when I just see how beautiful it is. The beauty just absolutely floors me. See that beauty, my heart just opens. Um, when I see the intelligence, I'm often just in wonder and awe. And also when I see how loving that energy is, it just stops you short. And I feel like my whole being just sort of opens. I become very receptive in those moments in my practice. I'm just awash with appreciation and gratitude. Now, what I've described, I've used the same language as if I were describing a relationship with another person. It's all the same language: intimacy, relationship, appreciation, gratitude, noticing certain qualities and attributes. And if you want to, if this appeals to you, you can think of this as a relationship in that sense. We know that if you're in a relationship with another human being and you're constantly noticing their faults, criticizing, berating, being sarcastic, judging, that other person is going to feel that. And sooner or later, they may not want to be around us if we're going to behave that way. Now, if we are, if we're demonstrating those same uh, behaviors towards ourselves, the energy can't run away. It can't distance itself from us. There's nowhere it can go because we are it. That part's already done. And so the only thing that that energy can do is reflect what we are putting out towards ourselves. Now, I say out, and I'm doing this gesture as if we're putting that energy out, but actually we're sending that energy in towards ourselves. And we're our side of the relationship is then at fault because the energy is never at fault. It just is. It's just designed that way. It just happens to be that way. It can't change. It can't do anything different. The only thing it can do is express back what we're putting out. So, in that way, um, we have to take responsibility and we have to be honest with ourselves about how we're treating ourselves. And the more we can see the truth of who we are, really hunker down into that source energy, the more we drop into gratitude, appreciation, wonder. And for me, a very common quality I feel in my practice is reverence. I feel that very deeply. And it's kind of a old-fashioned word, but that is definitely what I feel. And I guess it's a sister of awe and wonder. And says, I have found that you need to be immensely present. If you do not do this, well, look, I would start with being somewhat present, move to being quite present, move to being steadily present, and then you can move to being immensely present. Don't have being perfectly present all the time as your first goal, because then you get frustrated with yourself because we are easily distracted with our five senses. So I would say, to make it easy on yourself, be present whenever you remember. And I know that seems uh, like a no-brainer, that we can't be present when we don't remember. And it's true. So there's nothing you can do about that. Make the most of the times that you're present and in gently increase your steadiness and your focus in those moments that you do remember and you are present. And when you go unconscious, you're unconscious. So make hay where the sun shines, basically. Pauline, would you like to unmute yourself? We'd love to hear
Yes,
from
I
you.
would.
Oh, good.
Um, Thank you for the your explanation of loving ourselves or accepting ourselves. I that was wonderful to hear because I'm so hard on myself sometimes. But what I have gotten the most out of so far, I think, from the practices is presence. I have always described presence as our point of creation.
Mhm,
That's where I believe that presence is the point of creation.
mhm,
And
mhm,
when I am present, which I have been much more frequently now that I have a discipline to help me
mhm.
remember to come back there. That's what's very helpful about the program for me. Is it's a discipline. When I
Right.
am present, I'm available. You know,
Yeah.
I am able to receive and respond without there being without anything in the way. It's just clear, and that's where I want to be.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. And oftentimes, as human beings, we're so used to our individuation, we're so used to a separation, we're so used to our preferences, and we want to be independent and we don't want to feel like we're the same as anybody else. And we've been encouraged in that way, to be so unique and so different. Um, and yet, at the root of all of us is the same energy. However, because our souls have all had a slightly different trajectory through our lives, the way we look at our presence, the way we look at our source self and our core energy is we're going to have that unique relationship with it. And that's the beauty of it, that we're all interacting with the same source, but we're all having our own relationship. And for some people, that's they really lean into the emptiness or the peace or the quietude. For other people, they lean into the more celebratory aspects of the joy and the creativity and the dynamism. And we can do it all. It doesn't matter. However we like to, or however you like to interact with the energy. And as long as it's generative and you're enjoying it, I would say absolutely beautiful. So it sounds like you've got a really solid foundation in place. Good. Okay, so if there are no more comments or questions, I think we should just take a moment to do a little practice together. I'm going to turn off my video and you can just settle in. I think I might actually um, add some music. So I'll just start that up. So as you close your eyes and sit up straight, just allow your body to adjust itself. Allow the body to find its optimal seated posture. And when the body is comfortable and relaxed, And you can bring your attention into the breath. And again, allow the breath to regulate itself. When we hand over to the innate intelligence of life, we find there is so much available right there in our body, right there in our biological system. All that intelligence that's been encoded into the body. It knows how to sit, it knows how to breathe, it knows how to be at peace. And this frees you up to bring your attention within your being. And just hold that steady for a moment. We don't need to rush. We don't need to achieve anything. The design of our being is ever present, ever operating, ever accessible. We just settle down, hold our focus steady, and just trust. There is not one of us lacking. We are all designed the same. Same energy, same properties, same qualities. It's right there for every single one of us. So just allow yourself to relax into that, to trust. Know that this energy is absolutely there, absolutely reliable. And how does that feel? What an immense gift we have all been given. How fortunate we are. And practice in this moment being able to rely on this energy. Just notice what that feels like. That no matter what you do, what you think, what you say, what you believe, This energy will never desert you. What an immense gift. And as you perceive and interact with the energy in this way, just notice what you feel towards it. What rises up in your heart. You don't need to second guess this or impose anything. Just notice what is so. Notice that we don't need to do anything other than this. And choose to spend our whole meditation just experiencing this intimacy, this closeness, this compatibility, feeling held, feeling loved, feeling supported. Notice how you are responding to that. What are you offering up in return? And then reminding yourself, I am made from this energy. Every single part of me, no matter how it looks or feels, no matter how it seems, is the result of this energy. Everything you perceive this energy to be, all of its abundance and beauty and benevolence, that is what you are made of. That is who you are. Thoughts, feelings, words, behaviors, actions, they're all temporary. None of them stay. None of them endure. Only this energy remains. Just take a moment to allow yourself to accept and acknowledge how beautiful you truly are. Just let it in. And open your heart wide. Appreciate the truth of your being. And if you feel like it, smile. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes. So you see, even just in that short practice, how deep we can go. It doesn't require hours and hours of meditation time. If we cultivate the necessary steadiness and focus, and we are consistent enough in our practice, then we can go deep quite quickly. And when you're in your meditation and you feel that you're touching into the source energy and able to cultivate that harmonious relationship, remember to also preserve it. So if we take that back to looking at a relationship between two people, no marriage guidance counselor would ever say, oh, just be nice to your spouse once and that'll be enough forevermore. We have to cultivate the relationship. We have to keep it going, and take care of our side of that relationship too. So you can take what you experience in your sitting practice into your daily life. And that's really the purpose of the self-reflection statements, is to prompt that awareness that the work moves from the meditation cushion to daily life. So that's where you can also get a lot of traction, is by bringing those insights and that understanding into your daily life and applying it. That's what application means. It's not just a mental remembering. It's actually putting those things. And, have fun with it too. Spiritual seekers tend to be earnest and, a bit serious, and it doesn't need to be. It can be fun. So maybe you set aside one day a week where you just have fun with it. Just have fun with it. Just experiment and explore. Try something new. we tend to get stuck into grooves of thinking and behavior. So, if we want to change up the patterning in our field, we need to loosen that up a bit with doing something different. Okay, so lovely to be with you, and thank you for taking the time. And Patricia says, is the recording going to be available? Yes, I am hoping to be able to post them in the library. They'll, of course, be free. But what we might do in the interim is put them on Vimeo and give you access. So yeah, it takes us a while with editing and uploading to get things on the Oasis, but yeah, they'd definitely be available. And each month we'll look at another aspect of the work, and so over time we'll build up a little archive of these calls so that you can dive into them. All right. Sending you lots of love, and I look forward to seeing you next time. And if any of you are interested in joining the Shift course on mapping consciousness, that starts in 2 weeks. 2 weeks yesterday. So I'll be putting out that information, and you can use that link to sign up. All right, take care of yourselves and enjoy. Bye-bye.